with my co-hosts Varsha and Rakesh on our channel Tech Edit with Shalini Diwan. So in our series of dynamic personalities, today we have Brigadier Vinod Datta with us. Welcome sir to the channel.
Thank you.
It's a great pleasure having you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a little about Brigadier Datta. He's a warrior, a logistician, a former Secretary Defense Crisis Management Group, and the list is really long. So sir, we would like you to tell us more about yourself.
I have served for a considerable time in the army, and I can say with the proud that I come from a family which has got a Limca Book of Records where there are 17 army officers from the same family.
Wow, that's we can applaud, yes.
And not only the boys are in the army, even the girls are married to army officers.
Amazing.
So it's a real great honor for our family, and I have seen a lot of action, be it on Ladakh sector or in insurgency, and I have handled disaster management at national and international levels for almost 3.5 years, and that has been a very rich experience to serve the community and to make people aware, and especially the practitioners of disaster management.
Wow, incredible. So how will you explain in a layman that how do you explain disaster management?
Well, disaster management, you see, as per the Disaster Management Act, what is a disaster? Disaster is something like when a situation goes out of your hand. You see, if there is an earthquake in Rajasthan and there are a couple of houses which get damaged, or there are people say about 2-3 casualties, it is not a disaster. Or say there is a avalanche in some glacier and a couple of houses are damaged, it is not a disaster. Disaster is a situation where there is a loss of life, property or livestock beyond the coping capability of that district, state or the country.
Okay. So how does this act, how does this act actually explain it in a little more details about this?
Yeah, you see, earlier what had happened is that till 2001, disaster management was being dealt in India by Agriculture Ministry. Because the disasters, they were agriculture centric. They were like conventional floods, they were like droughts, they were like, crops getting damaged. Then the disasters changed their form and manifestation. And it was decided that the role and responsibility should shift to Ministry of Home Affairs. And in 2005, the Disaster Management Act was formulated and it was promulgated. And thereby the various institutions came up like National Disaster Management Authority, and from there on it is the Ministry of Home Affairs which is dealing with the subject.
So sir, what is the history and institutional framework regarding this?
Yeah, actually the institutional framework, I'll start from the top. National Disaster Management Authority is the apex body. It is headed by it is headed by the Prime Minister himself. He is the chairman.
Okay.
Earlier there used to be a vice chairman, which has been now done away with. And earlier it had 9 members. Now it has got 4 members. Earlier the status of vice chairman was that of a cabinet minister, and the members had a status of state ministers. Now the members have been reduced to 4, and their status has also been reduced to a secretary level. Then the similar thing you have at the state level, which is called the State Disaster Management Authority. There it is headed by the Chief Minister. So it is basically the same replica. And the Chief Secretary, he heads the State Executive Council. Because at national level, you have 2 major committees. One is the NCMC, which is being controlled by the PM office, and the other is NEC, which is the National Executive Council, which is headed by the Home Secretary. Then at the district level, which is the cutting edge level, which is the operational level, you have the District Disaster Management Authority, where the collector or the district magistrate is head, and he controls all the operations as far as disaster management is concerned. And then the Panchayati Raj institutes, the local bodies, the municipal corporations, the cantonment boards, they pitch in, and that's how the cycle gets completed.
So, do you think these states and districts in our country are able to handle these kind of crises?
It depends upon the nature of crisis, what kind of crisis you have. You see, there are three various levels of crisis: L1, L2, and L3.
Okay.
So some of the disasters are, these districts are able to handle it. But if it is beyond them, then the State Disaster Management Authority comes in. And then if the magnitude is, even beyond the state, then the National Disaster Management or the various other agencies, they get affected. Disaster management is a state subject. It is not a state, it is a state subject.
No, but do you think, after this, like we say, they are equipped. So every year, we talk about at times that, only if the state could do this. So why are they not equipped now that we know that, calamities can come anytime? So why is the state or this district not equipped for it? Why can't it be, functioning in a way?
Unfortunately, you see, in India, we have seen there is a tendency कि हर शख्स ये सोचता है कि मैं संजीवनी बूटी खा के आया हूँ, मरेगा वो.
You're so right.
Yeah.
So right.
So, and he only realizes the gravity of situation once he faces it. So I'll just give you an example. You must have seen this NDRF, these boys in the orange jackets.
Yes.
They're very good force, very responsive, as the name suggests. Similarly, the states are all supposed to be having SDRF, State Disaster Response Force. The mandate given by the government is that all uniformed persons, retired, can be recruited on priority one. So, and there is no dearth of such like people, and especially in hinterland, like UP, MP, Rajasthan, Haryana, such like Himachal Pradesh. When I had gone to give some advice to the government in UP on Kumbh, so I asked them, okay, how much SDRF do you have? So they said, sir, 2 companies. Imagine, they don't even have a battalion, and 22 crore ka state. So I told them, okay, where are these people? Let me, talk to them. Then, sir, वो वहाँ पे duty कर रहा है, वो वहाँ कर रहा है, and I would not like to, do what kind of duties they are doing. So, if it is almost 15 years, if we have not been able to recruit the SDRFs, where you see in India there is no dearth of human capital. There is no dearth.
Absolutely.
If we are not able to do that, I think it is lack of commitment, lack of dedication to the organization, and total insensitiveness.
I completely agree to this, because every time we face any crisis in the country, it's always, okay, this is the time we are working. And then, when the crisis is off and the army takes care of it, and, and then people are all relaxed. There is nothing doing beyond that. But I think, it should be enforced very well, so that next time we are able to face it. And I think the mindsets of people do need to be changed. And that is why we need some laws and implements to be doing that.
Yeah. I agree with you. You see, you have just, hit the bullseye. You see, people have to be formatted that way. Like if you see, like tomorrow you join the army. I mean, it is not that we have come from some alien planet, but we are formatted in such a manner that the accountability and responsibility is drilled into your mind. Unfortunately, that is not there. And what Shalini was telling is right. The easiest way is Sena ko bula liya gaya hai, and then everybody sleeps.
Absolutely. And that is why one thing, which is always in my mind is, why don't we have, like in China or other places, why don't we have every guy from India serve the army at least for 1 to 2 years, so that they ingrain in them that discipline, that dedication, that pride for the country, and the thing of helping out at the time of crisis or any time. Because I think that is very important.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think we should need to put this proposal across.
Yeah, it is, they have done something about it. That draft commission is required. Because like what they have done in medical, the moment you have to do internship as a fresh MBBS graduate, you are required to serve in a remote area or in a village area, and then you graduate to the cities. Similarly, it is a mandatory thing that a country of the size of India, we should have this kind of draft submission. Though the government has started that that tour on duty, they have started for 3 years, and I'm telling you the kind of potential which army has. It really makes you a very, very responsible person, and I agree with you that the government should seriously look at it.
And I think that is how, I think, as we were talking about the other day, we should have a group of people where we formulate this and we put it forward.
Yeah. It is required because you see, there is no dearth of intelligentsia. There is no dearth of human capital in India. There is no dearth of people who can take bold decisions and implement. But unfortunately, you see, we are a young nation. But sadly, the decisions are being taken by people, who are closer to God.
You're so right about this. Yes.
So, what is your proposed crisis management plan to the ministry?
You see, every ministry, every department, every major institution is supposed to have a crisis management plan or a disaster management plan. These are the guidelines from the Government of India. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. So, whichever department you are serving, whichever ministry you are serving, first thing as a responsible citizen you should ask is, let me go through the disaster management plan or the crisis management plan of my company or my ministry or my department. So you must insist them, and it should not happen that I asked somebody that who's the president of India, and he said, sir, Zakir Hussain. So I said, Zakir Hussain, because हमने तो वही याद किया था जब नॉलेज का जब एग्जाम हुआ था. So we must update ourselves. We must, because disasters are not disasters में एक बड़ी अच्छी कहावत होती है कि जो कभी नहीं हुआ वो कभी भी हो सकता है.
Yes.
So I mean you can't be, and let me also tell you, hope is not a plan. If you're thinking that I am hoping that nothing will happen, just don't worry.
Yes.
The nature's fury is such, we have seen it.
We've seen it.
Yeah, that it can wash away people. It can just sweep away people, and a person can't do anything about it.
COVID-19 has been a very good eye opener for us.
Yes, as they say, 1929 was a year of depression, and 2020 is a year of realization. Because I'm sure people, though the memory of a man is very myopic, is very short-lived, but yes, I'm sure the posterity is going to learn something, because there have been a terminology which is being used, what is called as anthropause. You see, you have seen the environment getting rejuvenated by lesser activities by human, because the humans always thought that they are these preferred species of this earth, and they can rule it, they can ruin it. But nature has its own ways to communicate these signals to follow nature, or else they have a better ways to make sure to teach us.
Yeah.
So, how are workshops on disaster management important at the school, at the college, and the corporate and institutional levels?
You see, if you read the disaster frameworks of various other countries, Asia is the capital of disaster.
Okay.
Yeah, because most of the disasters, they take place because of our demographic nature, our geological this thing, or geography. Yeah. And if you see Japan, if you see Indonesia, there right from school days, the kids are told to follow those drills. Because what happens is, unless these drills are drilled into your head, you see, when the disaster strikes, you are not going to go for the SOP, or you will not switch on your laptop. It has to be drilled in your leg. The very moment a bullet is fired, the soldier hits the ground. It is not that he's scared. It is projecting a very small target to the enemy. So the children, कहते हैं ना कि बच्चे ही मुस्तकबिल हैं भारत का, बच्चे ही भाग्य विधाता हैं भारत के, तो वहां से वो शुरुआत होनी चाहिए. अब हम तो we are on the other side of the hill.
Yes.
So since they are the potential citizens, it should start from the school. And Indian government has done a lot on capacity building. There are workshops which are being done. There are awareness camps which are being done. And COVID-19 is a case where there was so much of awareness that people were aware that to maintain social distancing, to have hygiene conditions. So we were a great success as far as COVID is concerned, keeping in view the mammoth or the huge size of our nation.
In fact, when I was seeing this very nice video about Japan, where the children who come to school as young as the kindergarten or maybe class 1, 2, they are supposed to clean their own classroom, their own toilets, their own things, and then get down, because then it comes to them from inside that we have to keep our environment or the place that we are there clean. So that is exactly what it needs to be imbibed.
Yeah, that's a very nice point she has brought out. Like Japan has not been hit that badly by COVID because people use masks. They maintain these hygiene standards. So that is, and the people who are dealing with hygiene are called health inspectors there.
Yes.
So that is the kind of hygiene awareness we have to inculcate among our students.
Exactly. So, sir, we would like to know your on-field experiences and your expertise on field, because you've been very dynamic on the field. So that is what we need to know more about.
Yeah, disaster management is very close to me because you see, an army officer always faces such crisis situations. As they always say that you never get a dream team. क्योंकि हर किसी को मुकम्मल जहां नहीं मिलता, किसी को ज़मीन नहीं मिलती, किसी को आसमान नहीं मिलता. So you have to motivate, manage, and make the operation successful. As a second lieutenant, we were told to tackle a lot of disaster-like situations, and we did. So it was on-ground training. What is lacking these days is, you see, disaster is primarily a civil administration responsibility. Now, because of this Disaster Management Act, the civil administration has been mandated. They have been told that yes, it is your responsibility, and the organization is there, and the rules and regulations are in place. They have the wherewithal also. Unfortunately, what happens is nobody is bothered. That accountability should be fixed. Unless there is a work accountability, especially in the civil governance, and nothing, we are not going to achieve anything. Second is, people should understand what is the value of a life. Unfortunately, in India, we don't. Second is timely action.
Yes.
We always think, in India, one thing very good I have seen is everybody is in a tearing hurry. If you are on a national highway, everybody is honking, trying to go ahead of you, but nobody reaches in time.
Absolutely.
Nobody reaches in time. So this, this culture has to, it has to come from within, and people have to be held accountable. Like in army, there is a very good system. If you fail, if your unit fails, if your company fails, it is the commander who's eased off.
Okay.
Because he is held responsible because it was a command failure on your part. Though he may not be responsible directly with it, but yes, he failed to steer that team, steer the body of troops to success. Because in our profession, there is no runners-up prize. You can't say, we fought with China and we came second. And 1962 is an example where people accept, and the army also accept, that we were defeated. So that kind of jazba, junoon is required.
So how were you were an advisor with the royal government of Bhutan.
Yeah.
So how was that?
I was basically there, to train their army.
Okay.
Yeah, because we have a sizable presence of Indian Army there, and we were training the Bhutanese army, and I was also advising on them on the logistics matters to the royal government of Bhutan, because Bhutan is strategically so located that China, as it is raring to go to occupy that country or to have his presence from a long time. So India realized in their strategic thinking that we must have our presence there. So there's an Indo-Bhutanese friendship treaty of 1949. So there is a sizable presence. Indian military training team is there, which advises, which trains the Bhutanese army. And
My father was also there.
Acha, you're in front?
No, he's in actually artery,
Okay.
but he went there for some time.
Okay, yeah. They go for a joint training.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So before we end, you are a great शायर also.
Yeah.
So we would like to hear थोड़ी सी शायरी आपसे because आप बहुत अच्छा
बिल्कुल.
शायरी करते हो.
बस मैं तो यही कहना चाहता हूँ कि देखिए देयर आर सम गुड वर्कर्स इन एवरी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और कईयों से जब हमने इंटरेक्शन किया है व्हाट यू सेड इज तो कई बार मैंने बेबसी देखी है ऐसे ऑफिसर्स पे तो मतलब एक शायर ने बड़ा अच्छा कहा था कि बदलना तो चाहता हूं मैं निजाम हुकूम बदलना तो चाहता हूं मैं निजाम हुकूम पर मेरे बस की बात नहीं.
That I think is already everywhere.
Yeah. So what we must do is, in whatever humble capacity, we must give our best. Unfortunately, in India, the authorities, which are supposed to be enablers, are the biggest impediments. So we must, clear those cobwebs from the people, because that's why they are called service. And you must do service. And people should learn from one community in India, which is not even 3%, the 6, and they contribute 66% of community work in India.
Wow.
So with these words, I think people should start, pondering over it.
Absolutely. So it was really nice, a very deep insight too, and you touched each of the subject. You touched the subject really well. It was great interacting with you.
Thank you.
And before we sign off, a great salute to all the soldiers who are up at the border, serving selflessly and making sure that we sleep well. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I also want to end one more thing is that Shalini has, I've been interacting with her. She's doing a yeoman service. I mean, if you go back to their family history, they have really contributed very meaningfully. And this campaign also, which she has started, it is basically for the masses. जैसे उर्दू में कहते हैं ना खिदमत खल्क खिदमत बोलते हैं सर्विस को और खल्क कम्युनिटी को और या जहाँ से हम आते हैं so that's a very good step which she has taken and I wish her all the luck and to her team a great success.
Thank you so much. It was really. And thank you so much for being with us. Until we meet again, thanks again.